Thank you so much for joining us on ABC News Breakfast to talk about this beautiful new record, your first in 5 years. Was there a catalyst for Ocean to Ocean? Where did it all begin?
Wow. I think I got to a point where I just walked away from a whole bunch of songs that I had written and thought, these aren't resonating anymore. That was early this year. And I just sat in the stillness for a bit. And then songs started to come. And they were a different energy, a different sound, a different frequency than where I had been. I wanted to be in a place that reflected where Mother Earth was. And she was regenerating. She wasn't in lockdown. So that really began to inspire me.
Speaking with trees, speaking of my grief.
You speak a bit about this private hell that you were in, and was songwriting a way to pull yourself out of it?
That seems to be my pattern. I don't know if you call it a dark night of the soul. I think we've all had it. I know you all have been just let out of a lockdown, and you all have been there for a long time. So I think you probably know what I'm talking about. There has to be a moment when you hit the wall and just say, when is this going to end? What's going to shift? And then how do I shift it? What do I need to do? And I couldn't just snap my fingers. It didn't work like that, San. I had to kind of get in there with it. And then songs started to help me shift and come out of it.
You've managed to create a record in lockdown that sounds incredibly full. I know that you are lucky to have a beautiful studio at your home in Cornwall, but how did you do it all when you were holed up there in that third lockdown?
We have built relationships with musicians over 25, 30 years, these musicians. And so there is a shorthand of how we speak to each other and how we understand each other. And I pulled in old collaborators. So I am married to my sound man, and that in lockdown is a magic thing to have in your toolbox as a sound engineer. So talk about marrying the right guy.
You did well. You chose well, Tori.
Spice, that's right. Spice.
Tash, your daughter, is within this album as well. I understand that there's a song called Spies, which is a real moment of levity on the record, and levity in lockdown. You take those moments, don't you? Tell me about Spies and what inspired that.
We had a really hot July here, and I'm an American telling an Australian this, so trust me, the Brits aren't just whinging about heat, which they do very well. It's boiling after 2 hours of a nice day. And so it got really warm here. So the bats were getting in the old farmhouse where we live, and they were finding Tash, of all people. They didn't find me or Mark. We love bats. So she left her room, and I figured I was going to write her a lullaby. But writing a 20-year-old a lullaby is very different than writing a 6-year-old a lullaby. So I brought in some drill and bass. I imagined this benevolent network of creatures from Cornwall to London and beyond that were stalking the scheming meanies, that were scaring not just the little kids, but scaring the big kids as well. So that's really that song.
Thank you for joining us on News Breakfast today, Tori.
Thank you for having me. And I want to see you in person in the next couple of years. Date.
When are you going to tour? When's this happening? Are you coming back?
I start in Europe in February 2022. So cross your fingers. I'd love to come down.